Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson here with my beautiful, amazing, famous, world famous producer of the Model Health Show and my co-host Jade Harrell. What's up, Jade?
What's happening, Shawn?
What's happening? How are you today?
Today I am victoriacted.
Victoriacted. Mm-hmm. It sounds like something is... Just tell me. Tell me. I don't want to jump to conclusions.
I can't wait to hear what your translation was. But my mind is directed and focused on my victory. Mm-hmm. Victoriacted. Directed toward my victory.
Directed victory. Yep. I like that. Yep. I like it a lot.
Pointed, activated, and directed.
So right before the show, you was telling me that it looked like my heart was jumping out of my chest.
It did.
Like, makes you think about a cartoon. But then I told you that I actually, when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with an enlarged heart.
Hey, you weren't just
little fun facts
Dwayne
about
Johnson,
Shawn,
you know,
that my heart is too big. Right? I've got this big heart.
Exactly. This is why you're in this work, so you can do something with that extra.
Ironically. But that could be a health problem, you know.
Well,
but that's when I was younger and everything kind of adjusted. Mm-hmm. It's just inflammation. You know, I was on the, we'll call it the Saturday morning cartoon diet. All right. I was all in the Mr. T cereal. Right. And again, you know, I didn't eat a salad till my mid-20s, and which is crazy that I even made it that far without breaking down and having the so-called incurable disease diagnosis and these things. But that's why we have this show today, is showing people what's possible. You know, that no matter what you've been through, no matter the struggles beforehand, there is room for improvement. You can always get better. If you're here breathing, you can always get better.
That's a message I needed to hear today.
For certain. For certain. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Very, very excited to have you. We've got a special guest. We've got, he's a living legend. All right. He's a literal living legend. And we're going to talk about the cardio myth.
Oh, boy.
All right. We're going to talk about the cardio myth. And you know, I don't know if you see some of these memes out there, but there's a lot of memes about doing cardio. People are like, if you don't think an hour is a long time, you haven't been on a treadmill or whatever, you know. And there was one, actually, I think I actually had it pulled up. It's this kind of, you know, big kind of buff guy. He's like Macaulay Culkin. He's like Forrest Pumped. He's like a big guy. Yeah. And the meme says cardio with a question mark. That's any set over 5 reps. Right? So many people. Here's another one. It said, and it's that one super cool guy. He's like the older guy, like super just G. And it says, I don't always do cardio, but when I do, it's called sex.
Okay.
So some people have different definitions of cardio, but today the cardio has really been pressed into our culture and into our consciousness that this is the thing we need to do if we want to lose weight. And we're going to break that whole thing apart and really give the truth about it, because there are some benefits, but there are also some important things that you need to be aware of. And before we do that, though, I'm going to give a quick shout out to what I had this morning. And my daily thing, every morning I have my 4 Sigmatic elixirs. All right. And today, because of course we're doing the Model Health Show, so I had the lion's mane.
That's the one.
All right. This is for the brain. This is one of the few things that we know about is clinically proven to be neuroprotective, right? To help you to really fortify all those different synaptic connections in your brain, right? Those neurons, make sure they're firing, make sure they're protected. So it's neuroprotective, and it also encourages neurogenesis,
I like
the
that.
creation of new brain cells. What? How?
We need that.
How's that possible? Well, lion's mane has been around for a very long time, and that's just one of the amazing elixirs. I switch them up. Really been into reishi lately, which is one of those things is about 300% increase in your NK cell activity. So these are natural killer cells, your immune system weapons. It's like training. It's like Ninjago training, right, for your immune system.
That's right. It's like showing up with your posse, you know.
It's like Sensei Wu, training those immune system cells. So shout out to Ninjago and the parents out there that know about this.
That's right.
But just really making it so that your immune system is well trained and really acclimated to adapting to any kind of nefarious thing that you're around. And I feel that, you know, especially people who are working in, and I just had somebody message me, you know, I'm pretty active on Instagram with my Insta Live. So you make sure you're following me there. It's at Shawn Model. But she's a teacher. She was like, the mushrooms, game changer when she got the medicinal mushrooms in there, the reishi, the chaga, because these kids are carriers, you know, little smugglers for sicknesses. Jay's pointing to herself.
Right.
I know, I do understand. And so make sure that you're utilizing these, and also the mushroom coffee. My wife is a huge, huge fan. It's her daily thing. She does cycle in some other things as well. But I never knew her to be a coffee drinker until she started using a Four Sigmatic coffee because she loves the way it makes her feel.
Yeah.
She also doesn't get that weird crash and no symptoms of withdrawal when she doesn't have it, which is so important.
Tolerate that. We used to just let that happen because that was the trade-off.
Yeah.
But it's so much nicer not to have it at all.
Exactly. And also, but coffee, it can be great for some people, but we need to make sure that we're getting high quality coffees, right? Organic. You're not having like a hot cup of pesticides, right? Pesticide coffee beans. You don't want to have that. You want to have the high quality stuff. And that's what Four Sigmatic is providing. Plus, the alkalinity of the medicinal mushrooms that are in there helps to really buffer the acidity of the coffee, which is another really interesting component. So make sure to head over, check them out. That's foursigmatic.com/model. That's FOURSIGMATIC.com/MODEL. And they're going to give you 15% off your entire purchase. So make sure to check them out. And on that note, let's get to the iTunes review of the week.
Well, here's a nice one. And it's Forever a Grateful Soul, 5 stars. Words cannot express my gratitude toward Shawn and Jade and everyone behind the Model Health Show. In September of 2015, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, 16 days after my 25th birthday. My previous life as I knew it was forever gone. During one of my chemotherapy treatments, I came across the Model Health Show. Little did I know that my life would be forever transformed. Fast forward 17 months later to February 2017, I can honestly say that I wouldn't have changed anything. Without my cancer diagnosis, I would have never found the Model Health Show and would have never been able to share my wealth of knowledge with friends, family members, and people I don't even know. Shawn, I hope one day I can meet you to express my gratitude for forever changing my life. Hashtag Dallas 2017, Preston Dean.
That just took a turn for me, like a big shift in my energy. I'm kind of overwhelmed right now. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being you and for allowing us to be a part of your life. And I truly do appreciate the fact that you took action, and I'm happy that you are here and healthy and thriving, because that's what it's really all about. Because now you have the opportunity to share your story with so many other people. And what you went through was for that purpose. It wasn't to defeat you. It was to make you better. And now you are in that position. And I'm very, very grateful to be a part of your story. So thank you for sharing that. And everybody, thank you for leaving those reviews over on iTunes. Some of these can really get me, but just keep them coming. Some of them are super funny. Some of them are so just giving and enlightening. So thank you for sharing those. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and our topic of the day. Today, again, like I said, we're having on a living legend. All right, guys. We're talking about, he's like the new edition of fitness, online fitness specifically. We have on the one and only Craig Ballantyne, and he's often called the world's most disciplined man. And this is by his friends and coaching clients. He's the author of 2 books, including The Great Cardio Myth and The Perfect Day Formula, which is what he was on for prior to this episode. We'll put that in the show notes as well. And Craig has been a contributor to Men's Health magazine for over 17 years. And in 2001, he created the world-famous fat-burning workout system, Turbulence Training. All right. 2001, he was rocking it on the internet, helping people. Craig also helps busy people get more done every day and achieve extraordinary results in every area of their life. His biggest obstacle in his life was overcoming crippling anxiety attacks in 2006, and he beat them using his 5 pillars of transformation, and that's what we talked about in the last time that he was here on the Model Health Show. Today, he's back to blow our minds and to help us to unmask the cardio myth, and I'd like to welcome my friend, the legendary Craig Ballantyne. How you doing today, man?
Oh, so good. Thank you so much, Shawn.
Oh, I'm always stoked to talk to you, man. You're one of the smartest people I know. And I want to dive in and talk about this cardio myth, man. Just kind of jump right in. So you reveal some pretty shocking statistics about cardio in your book when it comes to weight loss. And all the magazines tell us to do 30 minutes of exercise per day, specifically cardio per day. And a huge percentage of the population, I had no idea, are actually doing it, but it's not working. Why? What is going on?
Well, there's 3 big factors here. First of all, we don't burn as many calories as we think we do when we go on a machine. And second of all, those machines are lying to us. And then third of all, and worst of all, cardio makes people hungry. So there's a research study that from the UK, from England, that found when people did cardio, some of these people ended up eating 300 extra calories per day. They were called compensators, and they gained weight over a 12-week program using cardio. So it just is not working for so many people. So many people go out there and they run a little bit, or they use an elliptical machine. They see 400 calories burned on the machine, and they go home and they eat 800 calories to reward themselves. And that's really unfortunate, and that's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah, man, thank you for, you just said it, and this is a big thing for us to take down and take note of, is this compensation effect. And I know that specific study.
I always suspected those machines were lying. I knew they were perpetrators.
Yeah. There's a study that was published in Shape magazine that found the elliptical machine is the worst.
Really?
42% overestimation in the number of calories you burn.
Oh.
So if you go on an elliptical machine, it tells you that you burn 400 calories in a long workout. You really probably only burned about 275 or 300 calories. Oops. And, do that every single day, and you're eating more because you think that you burn calories, and you're eating more because cardio makes you hungry. It's a recipe for disaster.
Well, I thought it was underestimating. I sure felt like I was working a lot harder than the numbers were showing.
That's really what it is, too. And
I've
got to highlight this here in your book. And this is right in the kind of first pages here. And there was a study that was done in 1998 that showed the addition of 45 minutes of aerobic exercise at 78% max heart rate, 5 days a week for 12 weeks had no effect over dieting alone. Okay, so just dieting, right? You get the same benefit of all of this work. Okay, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
5 days a week, 45 minutes a day.
What was
Craig,
it for?
Break this down for us. What's going on behind the scenes?
That's a really good way of looking at it. It truly is behind the scenes because it's inside your body. When you do long, slow cardio, there's changes in your hormonal system that slows down your metabolic rate. You can lose muscle mass, which slows down your metabolic rate. And so the study that shocked me the most, in addition to that one, Shawn, was one from the University of Kansas that was published in 2007. And they had men and women do an hour of cardio 6 days a week for an entire year. And they lost an average of 5 pounds. So that's 50 hours of cardio in order to lose a pound of weight. That is crazy. No one would want to work 50 hours to lose 1 pound. And so that was one of the ones that just got me, riled up to get out there and tell people about the cardio myth and to show them a better way. And to go back to what you were saying, to focus on how diet is far more important than exercise for fat loss.
For people that couldn't see me that's not watching this on YouTube, I did a face palm, like a legit face palm, because it makes no sense whatsoever. And we're trying so hard, spending so much time doing traditional cardio. And I know the same thing, we kind of had this same kind of conventional education that you also need to be doing the cardio at about 20 minutes to get to your, quote, fat burning zone before you even start to get the benefit. That is
so ridiculous.
It makes zero sense. But this is perpetuated by some really poor science. And it started with Dr. Cooper, right? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Dr. Cooper came up with the idea of aerobic exercise back in the 60s because JFK actually accused America of being soft, of going soft in one of his presidential speeches, which I thought was interesting. I mean, he'd hate to see the way things are now, unfortunately. And so people got into this aerobic exercise. And then here's where it went really, really wrong, Shawn, is that a whole bunch of researchers in the academic world, all these university professors, they were really interested in running marathons, and they started doing all this research on cardio training for marathons, and that led to these long cardio workout recommendations. And worst of all, the one that had the recommendation that had the worst effect on all of us here in the weight loss world was they moved into this eat lots of carbs, eat low fat diet approach because, that works for running a marathon, but it's terrible advice for weight loss. And that led to the entire 1990s being focused on high carb diets. And the only good thing that came out of that was a really funny Seinfeld episode. But other than that, it was a total waste of time.
Tell us about that episode for people who haven't seen it.
That was the one they were eating the snack wells, and they just kept on eating. And then there was the low-fat yogurt, but it was high-fat yogurt, and that was another classic Jerry episode.
And he basically shows about nothing. you know, and crushed it. But these are nothing things that we all do every day. And I know that I was definitely guilty of that act, which was, you know, this is low calorie, this is low fat. I'm just gonna eat 2 bags, you know, low fat cookies or whatever. It's like it's a cookie, man. It's a cookie. Wondering why I'm not getting those results. And it wasn't until I really started to understand some of these principles, and also starting off with, you know, really trying to recover my own health. I started off doing, quote, cardio, but very quickly I transitioned over into picking up the weights again, which I know helped me tremendous amount. But to understand the idea that you can't out-train a bad diet, right? And I think you're one of the first people that I've heard really push that into the public consciousness. And you actually did a video where you were, just tell them about the video where you were actually proving this.
Yeah, so I was running on a treadmill, and my friend Brad Pilon, who's famous for an intermittent fasting book called Eat, Stop, Eat, was eating a giant slice of pizza and drinking a soda. And so in the 4 minutes that I ran on the treadmill, he consumed over 1,200 calories. And I ran pretty hard, and I burned about 40 calories in 4 minutes. And so that just goes to show you, you can't outrun a bad diet, because 1,200 calories is going to take a normal person about 90 minutes to burn off. With an accurate calorie reading. So not, your machine telling you that you burned 1,000 calories in 30 minutes of elliptical, because that's not happening. But you really have to work very hard. About a 160-pound man would have to run at 9 miles an hour for over an hour in order to burn 1,000 calories. And that is a hard workout. So we just can't outrun it. And there's a funny, you were talking about the cardio memes before. There's a funny one that I found, which is a guy on a treadmill, and it says cardio confessional. And that's what most people go to on, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, or the day after Christmas, or, New Year's Day. They're going to the cardio confessional thinking that 30 minutes on a treadmill is going to make up for the 2,000 calorie appetizer at Applebee's last night. Not going to happen.
Please forgive me for this Nacho Bel Grande.
Yeah. Let me pay my penance.
It doesn't make any logical sense. And I've seen this over the years, working at the university and helping people with their fitness as strength and conditioning coach. And I would see these same faces coming in, not my clients, but, especially after the holidays. And I'm thinking about this one particular woman, and she looked the same for the 4 years that I was there, every day trying to get there where she wanted to be, because she was constantly trying to run off the calories she ate. She's like, oh, it was, I had to bake the chocolate cake. I had to. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but why don't you try some different things, And eventually I did, toward the end of my, before I opened my clinic, I did see her start to basically copy some of the things that I was having my clients do, She was, it's one of those people like kind of peeking over, oh, what's that? Like, I'm kind of busy, but, this is this, I'll let her know. And so she started to add some of that stuff in. Don't know where she is today, but hopefully she got the memo.
Got it.
And that's no way for us to live. And I'm so glad that Craig is on today to talk about this, where we're constantly trying to run off our life and just being able to enjoy life and enjoy the foods that we love, without trying to constantly beat ourselves down. Because a big thing that I want to impress upon public consciousness is that suffering does not equal health, right? And we should not have to beat ourselves down and suffer our way to having the body that we want. Definitely, we do. It does require some intention and some work, for sure. Sometimes you're going to work really hard. But our definition of what that is needs to be changed, because this whole idea of cardio, traditional cardio in the way that we've been taught, does not work in the way that we thought. And I got to put one more little sidebar before I ask this next question. This is not for everybody somebody might be running right now listening to this episode. I'm not saying to stop running, all right? But running, if we're going to run, sometimes you just feel like running. Sometimes you just do. And I know, Craig, you agree. Sometimes you just feel like just going. But if you're doing that for the purpose of weight loss, there are far better methods of getting there. He shared that study, I believe, from Kansas a little bit earlier, this 2008, 2007 study, where we looked at a year, 6 days a week, losing about 5 pounds. That doesn't make any sense, but so many people are doing that, and there are far better ways to go about that. So,
well, I'm glad that you brought out the point about if you're running for the purpose of weight loss, then there are other methods. But when you're running so hard to make up for something or make penance, I see it as symptoms of the same problem. Sometimes the way we consume is a way of either punishing or dealing with something that we need to address, and then the response with the overtraining and the heavy running and the heavy exercise as well. So there's something deeper that we do have to address, but know that if it's for weight loss, then great, let's do it the smart way. But maybe take a closer look to see why.
Yeah. If it's for self-love, if it's for the love of running, if it's for, I don't know why Forrest Gump was running in that movie. If it's just like, I guess he ran it back and forth across the country or whatever. If you just want to run and just go, and it's something you love, that's one thing. But with these caveats and understanding that there are better ways about going and making sure that you're fit and healthy. So I want to actually shift gears now and talk about health. Craig, so let's talk about some of the dangers of traditional cardio. Let's dive in.
Well, I mean, first of all, most people who have done any amount of cardio know that they're going to get sore knees, sore hips, a sore back. They're going to get overuse injuries. And it makes total sense, too, because if you think about it, you're doing the same movement thousands and thousands of times in a workout, probably, 3,600 times in an hour of a running session, you would actually do that many steps. And so I like to use this analogy, Shawn, that, you've probably seen this little image of, somebody putting a microscope and then a little toy soldier, and then they concentrate the heat of the sun on it, and the toy soldier melts. Now, you're doing the same thing. If you have like a little bit of an injury, a little bit of a biomechanical problem, and you do that 3,600 times, it magnifies that injury so that you end up with more of an injury, but you also have your body compensating. And so you end up with an injury on the other side of your body. So if you have a sore calf on your right leg, you end up, with a sore hip on your left leg because you're compensating in that running. So it's that overuse injury is the biggest problem that people are going to come up with. Doesn't matter if you're on an elliptical, on a treadmill, running on the streets, which is really bad for you, or if you're even using a stationary bike. So you have to dial it in and making sure that you're doing all the right types of training to support the cardio that you do want to do.
Yeah. So you're telling me that my Nike free runs won't save my knees and my ankles.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
Running on concrete.
Right.
Or your budget.
Right. And
because that's the idea.
We've got to keep in mind that, how we're designed and what humans have been doing the longest amount of time. And when I do just feel like running, generally it's going to be on a road, it's on concrete. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast of where many of us live, and of course there's trails and things like that you can get to. But for a lot of people, that's where they are going to hit the trail. Or the treadmill. I mean, the treadmill. It came out. It came out wrong.
Great.
But there's some issues also with the treadmill that, and by the way, so again, some exercise is definitely better than nothing. And he talks about that in the book as opposed to different sedentary populations for many things. So I definitely don't want to dishearten somebody who has a treadmill at their house and that's a means of exercise. But it's for many people,
a new purchase.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Because a lot of people, that's where you keep your laundry. Like you hang your laundry up on that bad boy. But it's because the treadmill pulls out a part of your natural gait because the ground is essentially moving under you. Yeah. Right. So there's a part of that press off motion. It's not a normal thing. And this can create. And I know people have had this experience where they run on the treadmill and they can go maybe they can do a 25-minute jog, no problem. Then they get out and try to do this in the quote real world, and they're so much more exhausted. And it's because all of their different muscles are firing differently, and it can be really taxing because they have not incorporated those normal movements, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So Craig, let's talk about heart health. This was something that was really sobering for me when I read the book.
Right. So, originally Dr. Cooper's putting together the exercise program for heart health. And like you said, a little bit of exercise is better than none by far. But as the research keeps coming in, the amount of exercise you need to do in order to improve your heart health is very, very low. I've seen estimates as little as a few times per week of running for 7 minutes. And unfortunately, people have taken this to extremes where they're running for hours outside. And now here's another thing that we haven't talked about, Shawn. You go outside, what's the air quality like in your hometown, right? And you're running, and research has shown that if people that run beside the road end up with so many toxins in their lungs that it's much, they have much more exposure to pollution than someone who stays inside all day. Yeah. And so we're not even thinking about that. We're not thinking about the people that are getting skin cancer from running for hours outside. So there's those things. But, with the heart health, more doesn't equal better. And, I'm a 41-year-old guy right now. I had to do the math there for a second. But I know that every year there are guys my age dropping dead in marathons. And there was one study that showed me that the worst age for marathon running was 39 years old, being a male, 39 years old, and pushing yourself really hard in those final miles. Because if you think about it this way, in a marathon, what you've done is you just worked your heart muscle, and your heart is a muscle just like similar to your legs, not the exact same type of muscle fibers. But imagine you went and did 4 hours of bicep curls. Your arms would be killed, right?
Yeah.
But people don't think there's any problems with going and exercising your heart for 4 hours in a marathon. But it's that 39-year-old guy, after 4 hours of pumping his heart really hard, there's so much damage, so much inflammation, and then he pushes in those final 2 miles. And then that is where we're seeing fathers of 2, fathers of 3, fathers of 4, good, healthy young men dying in pursuit of these marathons. And it breaks my heart because I know that this little recreation that they had led to the death, and their kids are going to grow up with a father just because they wanted to push hard for a personal best. So there's a whole lot of things to consider when you're taking into account how much cardio you should do.
Oh, man.
Okay, this is a spot for PSA, all right, public service announcement, and the fact that this might be bumping up against your belief system right now. And you might be feeling uncomfortable. You might be like, oh, that's malarkey. I don't know if anybody says malarkey.
I do.
That's baloney. You sure do, don't you?
I do say malarkey. Yeah.
Oh, that's wax sauce. It's kind of wax sauce.
Malarkey.
But it's okay. So it's understanding that we need to be open. This is what this is about. Our continuous learning is about being open and continuing to be a lifetime student. And just looking at the research, taking it all in and weighing things for yourself. Because this is something I was like a little bit... I don't know if I want to talk about this because it's so paradigm shattering for some people, and also not to just affirm my beliefs, but I'm more going off of what I've seen to be effective for myself and the clients I've worked with, the thousands of people I've worked with over the years. And so this gets back to, and I've got friends who are like ultra marathon runners, like Rich Roll is killing the game. He's been doing that stuff for a while, but that's one way of being. But also you have to understand his lifestyle. That's what he does. That's it. He doesn't have the work stress like other people do. He creates his own schedule. He has a show. He kind of,
the nutrition is
he does some speaking, that kind of thing. Right. And, you've got to stack a lot of conditions in your favor.
That's it.
But also I want to talk about the experts out there who have actually passed away during the runs. Like you talk about these guys in the book, and one of them is Jim Fixx. And he wrote the best-selling book, The Complete Book of Running. And he ran himself right into a heart attack.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, that was way back in the day. And, back when I think, some of these runners were still smoking cigarettes. I know there were still professional hockey players smoking cigarettes between shifts back in the 70s. So these guys didn't have that education, but there's a lot to it. And so, if you compare Rich, who probably has genetics on his side in terms of recovery, in terms of biomechanics, and you compare someone who goes out and has a heart attack or has a problem or even has a lot of injuries from running, there's going to be a huge spectrum of response in individuals. But we can't force ourselves. We can't take a square peg and put it into a round hole. If we're 220 pounds naturally and 6 feet tall, we probably shouldn't be running marathons. It's just too much stress on our joints. And there are other things that we can do.
For sure. When we talked with Dr. Gabala, and we talked about this as well, Craig, the fact that many of the elite athletes out there that are even doing middle distance running, some marathons, they're using high intensity interval training as their training. They're not just going out for like a 20-mile run, and they save that kind of for game day. And they're some of these people are like the top people in the game that are doing this, and they're kind of shifting. And it's like a new wave coming in where a lot more people are shifting their training because the human psyche is always looking for going to the next level. It's a part of us, and it's a beautiful thing. Like, what can I do? How far can I push the limits? What is this body able to accomplish? And that is a thing.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool, Shawn, is some people are now running on treadmills in water to reduce the impact. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's kind of cool. But Marty has some really great stuff. And I've known Marty since 1999 because I went to the same school where he's a professor now.
I saw that, McMaster's University. Yeah, shout out to them. And you guys are just doing incredible work. And also, just taking all of this in, that we do need to continue to challenge ourselves and to see what we can accomplish. But in our day-to-day lives, it depends on what you're doing this for. You want to be very clear on your goals. Because if this is for fitness, if this is for longevity, then we need to change our perspective, right? And you put a chart in the book here, and this was sports-related sudden deaths, and this was in France. They tracked this by age from 2005 to 2010. So this is recent stuff. And you look at the comparison of people dying, like literally dying during the sport. Cycling is the top and jogging, right? And then like rugby and tennis, they're so small in comparison, like tiny, tiny numbers. And it's just like, well, I just need to take a look at that. Now, also, I want to be clear that the correlation and causation factor, and Craig mentioned this too, like some of these guys might be smoking. And some of the studies he puts in here, that's taken into account though. But sometimes they're smoking. Sometimes we're not looking at their diet. We're not looking at, family history, all those kind of things. So
sleep.
We don't want to just say, right, their sleep quality, all of these things. So if you're going to perform in these sports and make long distance cardio a part of your life on a regular basis, you need to stack everything else in your favor. So with that said, now, don't we have to do some cardio though? Craig, let's talk about that. Do we have to do a little bit for our health?
It's a great question. And, going back to what you said before, sometimes you do just want to go for a run. And I know for me, there's nothing better than going for a trail run, for a nice stress reduction. And, you get your mind flowing, you get some great ideas when you're out doing a trail run in the fresh air. But I don't do that a lot. And so if we take a look at what are called the blue zones, and we've heard about it, we've maybe read the book, the blue zones are areas in the world where people are living to 100 years old regularly. And, it's like Okinawa, and there's a place in Italy, and then, there's some Mediterranean stuff and some Greek places. And you know what? Those people have never seen a treadmill yet, let alone used a treadmill. They're just going out and they're staying active, and they're reducing their stress, and they're eating the right diet. There's so many other factors involved in longevity, and it doesn't just come down to pounding away on the treadmill. Because if you pound away on the treadmill and then you go to Carl Jr.'s and get fries and a burger, you're not going to end up in a good place like that at all. So there's a lot of factors. And as I mentioned with the weight loss, and as you've mentioned already, diet is more important than exercise for weight loss, but diet is also more important for cardiovascular health than exercise. As much as I love exercise, I mean, I'm a trainer. That's how I made my bones. That's what I did and helped people for so long. But diet is the key.
Awesome.
And unfortunately, if you are pounding away, then you can create a vicious cycle if that kicks up that hunger.
Absolutely. And you made a great point before about people punishing themselves. And Shawn, one of the greatest things that CrossFit has delivered the world, and it's delivered a few good things like knee-high socks on girls all the time. That is a beautiful thing. But the second best thing it's delivered is that it's totally shifted women's and a lot of guys' mindsets towards exercise. Yeah, they're going out and really putting themselves through training, but they've shifted that mindset from I'm going to go and punish myself for what I ate to I'm going to go out there and perform. I'm going to perform because of what I ate. So it went from punishment to performance, and I'm so glad that you brought that up before.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's tied into the culture as well. A lot more focused on nutrition as well, the sleep component. Like Dr. Kelly Starrett, who was on the show, one of my favorite episodes. He's a big proponent of Sleep Smarter, and he actually encouraged one of the specific chapters in the book when I combined and worked with Rodale to put the big version out. And that was the body work aspect. He was like talking about the vagus nerve. It just like blew my mind. It's like, I need to know more about it. And so it's something that they push into the culture there as well. So it's really, and it's basically, we can start to create our own blue zones. You know, little CrossFit box blue zones. All right. Now, with that said, you know, there are within anything, there are going to be extremists. You know, there are going to be people who are going 7 days a week. You don't need to do that. And there are also this category of people who, you know, get into adrenal fatigue, that get into immune issues by just going too hard, doing too much.
And just, you know, one big article in the New York Times last year, Shawn, was about one of America's top marathon runners who said, I quit because his testosterone is in the toilet from long endurance training, and he can't have a family. And that's what happens when you do too much endurance training. Your sex hormones get messed up because they don't have the reserve capacity to continue, you know, staying at a normal level. So you actually see men who have active lives but not hardcore training actually have better testosterone levels than guys who train too hard.
Yeah. You know what? Yesterday I talked to Navy SEAL Mark Devine.
Oh, wow.
He had me on his show yesterday, and he was telling me about how he would see they came in, they actually were working with these SEALs, and they tested their testosterone after their training, and they had the testosterone levels of like teenage girls. Right. Wow. And they were just like these big, strong, tough guys. And they were like, what is going on? But it's that mindset. They kept pushing through, push through. But the long-term damage, they were looking to find ways to stave that off and to help them to be as healthy as possible. And a big part of that was focusing on getting them better sleep quality. That was a big key. And so, of course, we talked about that on the show as well. So do we have to do cardio for health? Let's talk about some other ways, kind of unconventional thinking, that we're actually getting those cardiovascular benefits from different forms of exercise.
Right. So there was a study that came out in 2012 that just made my day. And it was from a university up in Canada called Queen's University, where my sister actually went to school. And it was a body weight training program compared to 40 minutes of cardio. And so it was only 4 minutes of body weight exercises done in the what's known as the Tabata style, which is 20 seconds of hard work, 10 seconds of recovery. And these people, again, they were young women, young college-age women, and they trained for 12 weeks. And they either did 4 minutes of bodyweight training 4 times a week, or they did 40 minutes of cardio 4 times per week. And at the end, they compared their aerobic fitness improvements, and both groups made the same improvement.
Yeah.
One group, actually it was 30 minutes. I apologize. It was 30 minutes of cardio because I remember doing the math. It was 7 times more effective. So 4 minutes of cardio versus 4 minutes of bodyweight exercises versus 30 minutes of cardio 4 times a week. And over that period of time, both groups increased their aerobic fitness the exact same. But the bodyweight group also improved performance in muscular endurance, such as push-ups to failure, sit-ups, all those bodyweight exercises, those life-applicable movements. And so that was like a big aha moment for me. It showed my clients and my readers that, hey, we can just do these bodyweight exercises. And so I pumped out a whole bunch of bodyweight videos. There's lots on YouTube that you can see that some have been watched over 1 million times of my 4-minute workouts that give people an amazing workout 7 times faster than doing long, slow cardio, no equipment, no money spent on gyms, no money spent on a treadmill, and away you go.
Treadmill.
You know, some people would give away one of their fingers to get 1 million views on their YouTube videos. But this is like I've been telling you guys, he is a legend. He's been putting it down and getting this information out there. And he might be like your favorite trainer's favorite trainer, you know? And because of this, it's not rocket science. You know, it kind of is, but it's so simple. And also, if you just look at the research, like he gave that wonderful example that you can, and that's one of the biggest kind of barriers to entry for people to work out is like, I don't have that kind of time. And today more than ever, really, like that's an issue. So what if we can incorporate this 4 minutes of exercise plus focusing on our nutrition, getting great sleep? What if we could put that extra time spent running, getting great sleep, right?
Great sleep.
Isn't that perfect?
Food
you get
prep.
4-minute workouts and you use Shawn's Sleep Smarter, and you stay in bed longer. You can get up and just, work out in your PJs at home. Think of the time that you're saving people here with this advice, Shawn. It's amazing.
It is, for
We
sure.
love you both
for sure.
Both for that. And then one of the questions that we did get when we were on the road was, do I need a gym membership in order to participate? Do I need to get new equipment? And the woman was concerned that might be something that would make it prohibitive. And so this is very freeing.
Absolutely. And there's so many things that we can do with our bodies. I mean, I'm in hotels all the time, Shawn. I don't know if I travel as much as you, but I travel a lot. And there's sometimes the hotel gym isn't open. Sometimes there's no hotel gym, especially when you go to Europe. And so I've had to come up with probably about 120 bodyweight exercises that I can do anytime, anywhere, no equipment, and still work out every muscle in my body. And it's just really a great relief to know that I can do that and still, get in my workout and not feel like, a slug because I haven't had that blood flowing through my body nice and fast.
Did you say 120?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably got like 25 different push-up versions, but there's a lot of really neat stuff that you can do with your body weight.
And he's got a bunch of them in the book, and we're going to talk about the specific, like if you've got this amount of time each week, what should we be doing? So we're going to dive in and talk about that right after this quick break. We'll be right back. Massive research is now pouring in with this blossoming field of science and nutrition called nutrigenomics. And this field is studying how every single molecule of food that you eat impacts your genetic expression. So we're literally talking about how your body appears, your health, or lack thereof. All of this is going to be determined by every single molecule of food that you eat. So whether it's a banana or a donut or a Hot Pocket, whatever it might be, we have to be in tune with the fact that this is going to impact what genes are getting expressed. And there are genes like the FTO gene, for example, that has been found to be this, quote, fat gene and have a high propensity towards obesity if you carry this gene. Now, you can silence these genes by making sure that you're eating real foods that are in alignment with your own genetic integrity. The basis of that needs to be from earth-grown nutrients, things that your body actually recognizes as real food that you have a history with, that your ancestors have a history with. Not things that have been invented in a laboratory like last week. All right, so we want to make sure that we're eating real food that are from earth-grown nutrients. And this is why I love Onnit so much. This is why they are family. This is why I endorse them so powerfully, because they are part of my life. They're a part of my family's life. And I want to make sure that you head over to onnit.com/model. That's ONNIT.com/model. And you're going to get 10% off all of their health and human performance supplements. I'm a huge fan of the Hemp Force protein. I've been using it for many years. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And I give this to my kids as well. And this is one of the things that I love to have post-workout. Now, hemp is based on some powerful amino acids, some powerful protein building blocks like albumin, which is a very soft globular protein that's very easy to digest, plus edestin. And this is a unique protein compound that's found in hemp that might be the most bioavailable, usable protein for the human body. Crazy, right? So a lot of people today are hearing about the benefits of hemp seeds and hemp protein and hemp oil, things like that. But you want to make sure, again, that you're getting organic and that it's made with integrity, right? So that it's cold processed so that you're actually able to get the nutrients that you're looking for in this kind of protein powder, protein cake that you're getting with Hemp Force protein from Onnit. So they've got multiple flavors. They've got the Choco Maca. They've got the Vanilla Acai. And they also have a brand new recovery protein that adds in the powerful component of colostrum, which has every single amino acid, every polysaccharide, aka essential sugar, and every essential fatty acid right there in it. These powerful building blocks, growth factors, every growth factor that influences your body's metabolism is there in that protein, the recovery protein. So make sure that you're checking that out as well. Super powerful stuff. Also has immune factors to help fortify your immune system. Just great stuff. And they've got exercise equipment, tons of great foods. Head over, check them out today. Onnit.com/model. ONNIT.com/MODEL for 10% off. Now back to the show. Okay, we are back and we're talking to the one and only legendary walking, talking superstar, Craig Ballantyne, who is the creator of Turbulence Training and the book that really took things to the next level for me, The Perfect Day Formula. All right, so not just mastering our bodies, but actually mastering our life. All right, and now, so we're going to talk about what if somebody had 30 minutes 3 times a week to exercise, Greg, what should we be doing?
Oh, this is going to be great. If you want to build a little muscle, lose a lot of body fat, you got 30 minutes 3 times a week, you can do amazing things and improve your cardiovascular health by doing basically what I called the turbulence training program, which I put together all the way back in 2001 when I was a student at McMaster. And that was essentially we're going to do 3 or 4 exercises for our body and strength training, whether they're body weight or whether they're with dumbbells, or, if you're hardcore and you use barbells, or you can use the TRX, you can use anything. But we want to get a total body strength training workout in about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we want to finish with 10 minutes of either interval training, could be classic interval training. You could be running hills, could be even running on the treadmill for a minute at a time and a minute off. Or it could be bodyweight exercises like burpees, jumping jacks, mountain climbers, those bodyweight exercises that were used in the 4-minute workout study that I mentioned before. So we can really get this all done in a home gym. And, the whole thing comes back to my experience with Men's Health magazine. I was lucky to start writing for them in 2000. And these were the questions I was getting, Shawn. What can I do in 30 minutes? What can I do at home in the basement? What can I do with rusty old dumbbells? And, that's what I had too. And so I was able to put together these programs. So in 30 minutes, you do that 3 times per week, a total body workout with some interval type, metabolic type training, and away you go. You are going to be fit and look great on the beach in the summertime with this type of program.
Perfect. I love it. I want to let's construct something for people. Let's give an example, because one of the things that I've also seen you do is, these super sets or monster sets and combining these different exercises. So give us a sample workout for, we're going to hit the gym on Monday. We're going to do a total body exercise program. We're going to do it under 30 minutes. Walk us through what it would look like.
Perfect. Love this question. So we're going to do this first exercise called a goblet squat. So you're going to have one dumbbell held like this, like you're holding a goblet, and you do squats, because that is going to use the biggest muscles in your body, your quadriceps, your glutes, your hamstrings. That's a great exercise to start with. Then we're going to use that superset mentality, which means we're going to go back to back with the exercises, or we might do an entire circuit here. And we're going to go and use what I call non-competing muscles. So we just worked our legs. Now we're going to go and work our upper body pushing muscles. So we might go and do a push-up or a decline push-up, or we might get the dumbbells and do dumbbell chest presses, or we might do TRX push-ups. But that's your second exercise, is the pushing movement. Then we're going to go and do a single leg exercise. And what I really like people to do is not do lunges. And people listening are going to be going, thank you for saying I don't have to do lunges. Because most people, unfortunately, they don't have very good lunge form. So there's an exercise called a split squat, which is a stationary lunge. It's still pretty difficult, but it doesn't require you stepping forward and losing your balance. So we can do a split squat. Or if you're a beginner, you can lie down and do a 1-leg hip extension. Or you can do step-ups onto a small box. But we're going to do single leg exercises. Then we're going to go into an upper body pulling exercise. So we might do a dumbbell row or a TRX row or something like that. So we go lower, upper, and in those 4 exercises, we've really hit our entire body. And then we can move into that metabolic circuit at the end, which might be something like bodyweight squats, mountain climbers, and then something like
burpees,
jumping jacks or burpees if you're advanced, and then finish off with something called a rocking plank or a regular plank to work your abdominals and your core for endurance. And boom, just like that, you've had an amazing workout. And then we would just, in the next 2 days of the week, the second and third workouts, we would come up with new exercises, variations on what we've used, not the same exercises. So there's variety. And that way, man, you keep yourself entertained and getting results and putting a stimulus on your body, which is what training is all about. Just put enough stimulus on your body to make a change. And I could talk about that all day long, but most people do too much cardio. They overstimulate their body and end up with overuse. But those are the 3 workouts, Shawn. And then on the off days, just stay active. Go for a walk, do yoga, do Pilates, take your kids out and play with them. Do something, but you don't have to be in that I got to go to the gym mindset, because we don't need to be stressed out by exercise.
Got it, man. Yeah. So refreshing. So just really quick to walk through this. Another example that came up in my mind literally just now is I would see so many people over the years, they would come in, they would fool around on the cardio machines for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Then they would come and tinker around with the weights, with the different machines. And that's really a backwards way if you're really looking for maximum results, because number one, you're already fatigued and you're not possibly going to perform as well when you start to lift those weights and do the strength training stuff. That's just kind of common logic. But also, if you even flip that around and do the strength training first, we're going to get that really powerful kind of anabolic hormone production. You're going to start to kind of break down stored fatty acids and start to use them as fuel. And then if you do the little cardio afterwards, it's going to help your body to really kind of push that stuff out of your system, if you think about it, you know. So even flipping it upside down and doing it in this form like he has, so supersets first, then do your metabolic training afterwards, I think is really good. So just to clarify, so the goblet squat plus a press, will we do maybe 3 sets of that?
If you're a beginner, just do 1. If you're intermediate, do 2. And if you're advanced and you want to build muscle, burn fat, then yes, do 3. So one thing, Shawn, that's a really great question, is if someone feels like they have enough muscle mass, they just want to maintain muscle mass, they don't want to build a lot of muscle mass, just think like this. Muscle mass comes from volume. It comes from more sets and more reps, and it comes from more food. If you don't want to gain a lot of muscle, you don't do a whole lot of sets, and you don't eat a whole lot of food. And so that's really what it comes down to. And then we also use a little bit more body weight training for someone that doesn't want to gain a lot of muscle mass. So that way we can address people getting a little bit worried about that.
Got it. Now, what about, this is a big issue too coming into the game for this, because there's an on-ramp for everybody. Even if somebody thinks they can't do a push-up, I promise you can. It's learning how to do it properly and also using on-ramp exercises, progression exercises to get there. But let's talk a little bit about form, all right? So should we be doing burpees if we're all over the place and it's just like, we look like somebody's like throwing soup up in the air, like
right. Yeah, and then obviously some people with certain body weights shouldn't. If you're over 15% body fat, you probably shouldn't be doing burpees either, because that's a lot of stress on your joints. I mean, that one can lead to problems as well. So the best thing that somebody can do is treat themselves to 1 session at least with a good personal trainer that comes highly referred. That's what I always tell people: go and see a personal trainer, get the proper technique, learn how to brace your core as you do exercises, learn how to use proper posture, not only in your workouts, but also over the course of the day. Learn how to pick up weights properly in the gym, because a lot of people will do perfect form on an exercise, Shawn, and then it makes me laugh because they'll completely round their back over into a really dangerous position to put the weights back down on the floor. Yeah. So you always have to be thinking. And to be honest with you, that's the reason that a lot of people gravitate towards cardio. It is so mindless. I can go and put one foot in front of the other, so I can go and run on a treadmill or jog on a treadmill or use an elliptical machine. But to do strength training or metabolic work, it requires you to have focus, it requires planning, and it requires you to stay in and mindful of your body as you're going through it. But that's the great thing about my workouts is they're short, so you're focused, you get in, you get out, and that way you can then do your fun activities on those other days. So really great questions about form.
Quick question. When you guys talk about sets, now, is that 3 sets of goblet or 3 sets of 1 set of the entire cycle? That's
a really great question. So if I was training a beginner, I would have them come in and I would do 1 round of a 4 exercise circuit. So I would probably have a beginner do something like bodyweight squats, maybe push-ups or kneeling push-ups or wall push-ups, then the lying 1-leg hip extension, which is a very beginner exercise, but still allows people to understand what muscles are working, very nice targeted exercise, and then some type of upper back exercise, some type of rowing exercise. And we probably do about 12 to 15 repetitions for each exercise. And we take a little bit longer rests in between. And then we would just stop there for day 1. That's enough, because if you haven't done something in a long time, you're going to feel it. So if you're coming back from 2 weeks off with the flu and you used to be doing 3 or 4 sets, take it easy, do 1 or 2 sets, let your body get used to it, and then we go on into doing more sets. But again, we're not going to end up going to like 5 or 10 sets, because if you do 1 hard set, that's probably about 60% of the results as if you did three sets. So it's another time-saving thing to keep in mind.
Well, that's great to know that you don't have to go past the 3, but you can build up to that and then get great results.
And so,
absolutely,
like he said, you can change the stimulus, you can change small things. It's going to give you a totally different result. And so the way that I would do this personally, I would take the goblet squat. I'd do it heavier. I'd use heavier weights, and I'd do it heavy.
We see you on Instagram.
I do a heavy goblet squat and then a heavy press.
Okay.
And
Nice.
then I would rest after that, for maybe a minute, and then I do that superset again. So I go back to back, the squat right to the press, then I would rest, then I'd repeat. And I do maybe 3-4 sets of that. Then I go to the next one. So it would be the split squat. Maybe I'm doing the split squat with heavier weights, right? And then go right to the row, and then I'd rest 1 minute, then repeat. And then after I complete all of my rounds of those, then get to the metabolic conditioning or the HIIT after that to wrap it all up. So there's a lot of different variations, and I wanted to provide some framework, some examples for people today. But before we get to the end of the show, I wanted to ask you about, in the book, you actually highlight this, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. I'll mention that even, we're talking with Jonathan Baylor, the author of The Calorie Myth before, and because he was working with one of the contestants, a former contestant of The Biggest Loser, and just seeing the tremendous amount of struggle that they had after the show, and they were working their butt off, but they could not keep the weight off. So you mentioned that in the book. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's going on there when we see these television shows where people are losing massive amounts of weight?
So much change in the physiology. Again, beautiful phrase you used before, behind the scenes. We can't see what's going on to our sex hormones, to our cortisol levels, to all of these hormones in our body. We can't measure those like every single day. And so what happens is when you do long periods of fasting and long periods of starvation diet and long periods of lots of work and cardio, your body just starts to shut down because it starts to use that energy and reserve it for vital functions. And so your sex organs are no longer putting out the sex hormones, and you just feel great fatigue. And then your body's, because it's through evolution, we're meant to survive. And your body says, I need calories and I need to hold on to what I have here because I'm going into some starvation thing. And who knows when it's all going to turn around. And then when it does all turn around, you can start eating normal again. Your resting metabolic rate has come down and you're still eating up here, and then the weight gain comes back. So you have to be very conservative, very cautious. Take a look at this as a lifestyle program when you want to improve your fitness or lose weight. And instead of trying to go Biggest Loser crazy on things and just losing a ton of weight really fast. Now, some people can. Don't get me wrong. We've had people in our programs lose 75 pounds in 12 weeks, but they were starting at 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Most people, you know what, if you can do that 1 or 2 pounds per week with good diet, good nutrition, good exercise that you love to do and will do for the rest of your life, whether it's dancing or working out, whatever, just pick something you love.
Yes. Thank you, man. And even if you don't lose 2 to 3 pounds a week and you're just losing inches, we want to celebrate that. We want to celebrate that because we've got to get over this obsession with weight because it's like weight for weight, right? You're just constantly waiting and checking in and and it can play tricks on your mind, and then some people are going the opposite.
I always say, Shawn, that, nobody's like Flavor Flav walking around with a big scale and their weight. Like the only person that knows somebody's weight is almost always just that person. And so we really need to shut it out and forget about the weight. And like you said, focus on inches and how we feel and how our pants are fitting and that energy we have all day.
Oh, man. Is this the first time we talked about Flavor Flav on the Model Show?
Especially carrying a weight. I love that.
So, right. Check out this big old scale I got. I got the biggest scale in the game.
That's right.
I know what the weight is because, you'd be like, I know what time it is.
Way, boy.
Okay, so listen. So this is actually, I'm just going to read directly from your book. So there was a recent study published in the journal Obesity that tracked a group of 14 contestants from The Biggest Loser for up to 6 years after their appearance on the TV show. The study, backed by the National Institutes of Health, found that 13 of the 14 participants couldn't keep the weight off, and not for lack of trying. Season 8 winner, Danny Cahill, I believe you pronounce his name, devoted hours a day to exercise and even quit his job trying to hold on to his victory. And it says he started his day with the treadmill at 5 a.m., rode his bike to the gym, where he did even more cardio and ended his day with a night run. But as he told the New York Times, he battled increasingly fierce food cravings and an ever-slowing metabolism. And according to the obesity study, he now burns 800 fewer calories per day than expected for a man his size. And that's really the big key.
Yeah, I mean, that is so hard for anybody to overcome. 800 calories is a lot of food. I mean, that's almost a fast food meal, and we know how bad those are. So, I mean, you got to feel bad for the guy. He's definitely started out in a tough situation already because he was, his body allowed him to get that big, and then going through that program, it certainly didn't help. So, but that is an extreme case, and most people are going to have greater results with the diet and nutrition that we talked about because we see so many people that are able to do that and transform their lives. So it's unfortunate, Shawn, but it is very good that you brought that up.
Yes. And the point that I want to close with that story is the fact that now his body really is burning things slower, right? 800 fewer calories a day. And what happened? Well, loss of muscle. Your muscle is your body's fat burning machinery. And if you're losing muscle while you're constantly banging away doing traditional cardio, your body is about survival first, as we've been talking about. And it could care less about it. It really thinks like I'm either running from something or I'm trying to catch my food, basically. Right? And either way, it's just like, I don't know if he's going to make it, bro. Muscle is expensive, so it's going to get rid of it. It's going to start throwing it off, and it's going to retain more fat because your body can basically pinch off of that a little bit. And I'm like, I got like a fake bag and I'm like pinching off a muffin in the bag. Can you know the people that like stab the hand inside the muffin bag, right?
So that it doesn't crumble.
Just take it out.
No.
Just take it out.
The same problem with cupcakes.
Anyway, so as I digress, but the bottom line is losing muscle, number one.
Yeah.
And also just literally changing your hormonal cascade, and getting your body deconditioned to have optimal levels of testosterone, the right ratios of estradiol, estrogens, the right ratios of human growth hormone. You could suppress these things, or change the dynamics and how they're functioning in your body by doing these crash diets and running and running and running. So just want to make that point and understand that there are better ways and better methods. That's why I invited Craig on the show today. So can you tell everybody where they can get connected with you, where they can find the Cardio Myth, because it's a really, really great book and it's a great read. And it's also kind of cool, the design. It's a different type of book in the way that it's laid out. So let everybody know where they can find it.
Well, I'm very grateful for those kind words. I had an amazing co-author, Chelsea Ratcliffe, did a wonderful job of putting together the studies. And we can get this at Amazon, of course, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca if you're up in Canada like me, and or from Canada like me. And so I really appreciate you sharing that, Shawn. And then if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can find me on Facebook, of course, at CraigBallantyneFanpage.com or on Twitter at twitter.com/Craig Ballantyne.
Perfect. My man, Craig, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. I do truly, truly appreciate it.
I love talking to you.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today and joining us. It's really great having a good friend like Craig on, who is so knowledgeable, and he's been in the game for so long. He's helped so many people to learn from the best people doing it. He's been online sharing health and fitness programs for a long time. And there's a lot to be gleaned from that. And he's continuing to press himself and to get better and to put out information. Like, this book is a great consolidation. Like, I've literally read some just little teeny pieces from the book, and it's just layered with information like that. It's just like aha moment after aha moment. Like, wow, I cannot believe that. And so it ruffles those feathers. Like, I was just like, I didn't know it was like that bad. I mean, and so I had to really kind of come to grips with some things, and also be aware that, everything is still on the table for us. It's just putting things in a proper perspective for yourself. What are your goals? If your goal is to complete the Boston Marathon, and that's your thing, that is like something that's on your bucket list, then there's a way to go about training for that actually can be a little bit healthier for you, by incorporating high intensity interval training, for example. Or, just understanding that that's the goal, to do that thing and then maybe move on to something else. But if your goal is fitness and just being the fittest version of yourself, I promise you that spending time day after day running on that treadmill or on that elliptical machine is not going to get you there. So we really need to take a step back, maybe even jump off the treadmill right now and just look at it. All right, just stand there and look at it going and realize, like, when I hop back on here and understand that this might be your dark side. Right? This might be the Darth Vader in your story that you're looking at. A lot of treadmills are black, by the way. Yes. That conveyor belt, it's just looking back at you. It's like,
keep going. That's right.
I'm going to keep you from losing weight. And it's like talking to you like that. You're like, no, it's not going to happen. And, it's just really just taking a bigger global perspective and understanding we can use those things. They're great tools. These are different tools that our amazing creativity as humans have helped to create. All right. So we can use those things, but we need to keep them in the right perspective. All right. So treadmills are still, even though we were making fun of it a little bit, they're still on the table. Ellipticals, stationary bikes, regular bikes for cycling, your skateboard, whatever it might be, these are all tools and great things for us to take advantage of. But if health and fitness is the biggest goal, we want to focus on being acclimated and literate with our own body, being able to do body weight exercises, being able to do strength training programs where we're building muscle so that we can turn up that metabolic engine, and also that high intensity interval training. All right. By far the best form of exercise for really getting your body to burn the greatest amount of fat in the least amount of time. So make sure to head over and check out Craig's amazing book that I have right here in my hand. For those on YouTube that could see it, The Great Cardio Myth, one of the best books in my repertoire, loaded with incredible studies and also programs that you can utilize in your own life. And again, huge shout out to Craig for doing all the work he has and being a pioneer. I appreciate you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We've got so many amazing shows coming up, some great guests, so stay tuned. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.